Hi everyone, this is Victoria Nalule, and here with me is Miss Demilade'S, originally from Nigeria, but right now she's at the Center for Energy, Petroleum, Mineral and Policy at the University of Dundee. In today's webinar, I would like Miss Demilade to expound on her opinion with respect to the political will to transition to a low carbon economy in Africa. I've just shared her opinion on the screen, but in summary, she seems to opine that we need renewable energy in Africa, and African countries should concentrate on developing their renewable energy to not only tackle the energy access challenges on the continent, but also to be able to address the climate change impacts that are already being experienced globally. So I would like Miss Demilade, this is going to be a very short video, and I would just like Miss Demilade to expound more on her opinion and to tell us what she really means and what she really thinks about the future of the African energy sector. Ms. Demilade, would you want to expand on your opinion?
Okay. Thank you very much, Victoria. And I thank the AEMI for inviting me to this webinar. As Victoria has explained on my opinion on energy in Africa, it's no secret that there is a serious energy problem in Africa. The International Energy Agency, as of last year, said that only 15% of the population in Africa has access to electricity, and only one quarter of the 2.5 billion people have any access to any form of cooking energy. And we cannot overemphasize the importance of energy in any economy. It was the bedrock of the industrialization era. It's the reason why the developing countries are where they are, and the UN as well, when they found out what happened when they were doing a breakdown of the reasons that the Millennium Development Goals were not achieved. It was shown that the lack of energy in Africa was contributory to not achieving all the Millennium Development Goals, which is why in drafting the agenda, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development goals, it was insistent that access to energy was one of the main goals. That being said, the issue of energy poverty in Africa is a conundrum, considering that we have a lot of natural resources, both in the traditional fossil fuel energy provision and in renewables. For instance, we have over their proven reserves as at 2019 of 487 trillion cubic feet of gas, and proven oil reserves of 125 billion barrels. So when we have such natural resources, what is making energy access such an issue? Of course, the number one problem is corruption. Um, Many African countries are plagued with the problem of corruption, and it has entrenched the oil and gas and the energy sector. And so it's difficult for countries who produce oil and gas to refine that energy and distribute to their own citizens. Another issue, of course, is grid access. The grid doesn't reach all the remote areas in Africa, and then there are a lot of reasons why there's energy poverty on the continent. And be that as it may, I think that renewables has a very important role to play in, addressing energy poverty issue. Like we said, one of the problems of energy poverty is the fact that the grid access doesn't get everywhere. So with renewable energy technologies that allow for mini grids, it ensures that things like solar energy, wind energy ensures that we get there's access to energy in the remotest parts of Africa. It also means that we have unending resources. It's cleaner, it's better on the environment. But why are we not pushing forward on this? I think that the reason African nations haven't really pushed forward on renewables, one, the issue of climate change seems to be a Western agenda. The Western countries, the developing world is pushing the climate change mitigation agenda. They are at the forefront of the climate change mitigation agenda. And Africa seems to develop this or to take the approach that we have so many other issues. We have issues of poverty and economic and socio-economic issues and health issues. So climate change maybe is on the list of the things we need to be worrying about. But the truth is that climate change is a global issue. It's not just an issue for the developing world. While the developing world admittedly have contributed more of to the carbon emissions, and Africa's contribution to carbon emissions is relatively low, the reality is that the effects of climate change are global. The effects of climate change are not going to be worse in China because they are the highest emitters. It's not going to be worse in the US. All across the globe, we're going to be seeing the effects of climate change. Deforestation is a massive effect of climate change, and we can see it in Africa. It's increasing the hunger issue, as there is less access to food because of deforestation. And there's also the desertification. Deserts are getting wider, so there are a lot of we are already seeing the ill effects of climate change. We can see or ridiculous floodings all across the cities. So it's important that we make our own contributions to ensuring that we do something to reduce the world's carbon emission. Um, I understand that there is an unwillingness to move towards renewables in Africa, and that is perfectly understandable because like I said, a lot of African countries are resource rich with fossil fuels. I gave the statistics of the reserves that we have, and there seems to be a willingness to maintain the status quo. For what it's worth, the many African countries are developing nations, and although development is slow, the development that we have seen has been based on the fact that we have used our natural resources. Nigeria, for example, it earns over 70% of its foreign exchange from the oil and gas industry. So there's a reluctance to leave such a seemingly profitable sector and move towards renewables. But what I think we need to do as Africans, and to ensure that we are not left behind on the world stage, is to see what role we can play in providing renewable energy services. So it's not just about using renewable energy, it's about seeing what we can do to ensure that we are part of the renewables. And COVID-19 has shown us, COVID-19 has been an eye-opener for the future of oil and gas. We all know that during the lockdown period, demand for energy dropped. In fact, for the first time in many years, oil prices were sub-zero. The Nigerian economy, for instance, is still trying to recover from that. There are still millions of unsold barrels of oil at sea because our long haul buyers didn't need the energy, they didn't need the oil and gas for energy, and they are still at sea for many years, because even with the for many months, because even with the reduced prices, countries are not buying. Usual buyers are not buying oil and gas. And even though energy demand dropped, statistics from the International Energy Agency show that although demand for energy in general dropped, the demand for renewable energy increased. So what are we going to do about it when we have a product that is not marketable anymore? Yes, we need our fossil fuels because we have energy poverty in Africa. So we need to do part of the things we need to do is build our own local refineries to ensure that we can provide energy to local energy to ourselves. Maybe we don't need to export that anymore, but we need to ensure that we keep on earning currency. We keep on earning foreign currency. We need to ensure that our economy is sustained. We need to ensure that we are relevant in the global market. So we have to find a way to provide renewables, and the area of renewables is so wide. it's not just the actual, of course, there's no selling the actual natural resources, but the technology. What are we doing? There are so many different types of renewable technologies. At the beginning, solar technology was so expensive, but right now they're churning out new types of technologies, new types of materials are being used. For instance, I'm going to use iron as an example. Africa is very rich in iron. There are many iron ore resources in Africa. We need to ensure that we place ourselves in an area of competitive advantage to provide the raw materials for these renewable energy sources. You need iron in your solar panels, you need iron in the wind panels, you need lithium for battery storages. And these are things that we have in abundance in Africa, but we are not paying attention to because we are focused on our fossil fuels. So one thing that we need to develop the political will to go away from the conventional energy source of fossil fuels and try and build capability, build resources in the area of renewables. So it's not just about the raw materials used for renewables. It's also about technology. How are we developing renewables? How is renewable energy being distributed? They're talking all about smart grids and all that. We need to invest in our technology sector to build technological and IT capacity to provide services, not just to ourselves in Africa, but across the globe.
Thank you very much, Demi. And I would like to ask a follow-up question on the last issue you've made with respect to investments in renewables.
Yeah.
Most people feel, including myself, that African countries can actually utilize the fossil fuel revenue to invest in renewable energy. And this can greatly contribute to the global transition to a low carbon economy. You yourself, you come from a country which is very rich in fossil fuels, Nigeria. So in your opinion, do you think it's possible for Nigeria to utilize the revenues from oil and gas to instead invest in renewable energy projects, including the various technologies you've just illustrated in this presentation?
Ideally, yes. And that's the point of this whole conversation. We can do that. We can redirect resources that we've gained. We can redirect revenue we've gained from oil and gas sales to developing renewables. We just haven't, like I said, because we're more comfortable with the revenue we are making from fossil fuels. And I think there's a little bit of a lack of vision as to the potentials of the renewable energy sector. So I believe that, I mean, it's not, nobody's saying that there should be we should go cold turkey and no longer trade in fossil fuels or do use any hydrocarbons at all. That's not the argument. The point is we need to ensure that we are not left behind. For most part of history, Africa has always been catching up. It's time that we are at the table and moving along with the times. So we need to ensure that we remain relevant in the global market. We need to use anyways, for instance, in a country like Nigeria, I had said earlier that oil and gas industry accounts for over 70% of our foreign exchange earnings. So anyways, it would still be that money that will be used to develop any form of industry or any investment, either in education or technology. So it's all about ensuring that we divert some of these funds into developing the renewable energy sector.
All right, thank you very much for that. And then since this is going to be a very short webinar, I would like to get your recommendations on the way forward, especially for policymakers in African countries, because most of them it's not that they're confused, but obviously they're at the crossroads of developing renewable energy, but also developing or sustaining their fossil fuel sectors. But I also note there are various developments on the African continent with respect to renewable energy. So it's not that African countries are climate change deniers. because there are already legislations, we already have projects, but the issue is we can still benefit from both the sectors. So in summary, just in a few minutes, what would your advice be to the African policymakers? What are the key issues that they should consider with respect to the future of the African energy sector?
Okay, one of the key issues, and I think the most important key issue is we need to do to we need to overhaul the system. So it's the institutions. We need to reform our institutions. The way the institutions are run are a big contributor to the challenges that we have now. I feel like privatization of the energy sector generally is a very important factor in ensuring that there is competition in the market. Competition means always leads to better quality products, and in fact, it's what the modern world was built on. So one of the things I think that we need to do is to overhaul the institutions that are in charge of our energy, in charge of energy provision in Africa. It's also important for us to create policies to ensure that all hydrocarbon, fossil fuel explorers and companies generally have a renewable, a transitioning plan. We need to ensure that all these companies have a fund that they are contributing to ensure that we are building this fund to invest in renewables. And the last thing that I think that policymakers should do is honestly education. We need to invest a lot in educating the young generation in terms of technological advancements in the areas of engineering, the areas of STEM, to ensure that we are building capacity that would sustain these renewable energy technologies that are coming in the future. Once we have that, I think that we will be able to make enough progress, not just in addressing our energy poverty issues, but also the climate change issues.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Demilade. It was really, really an honor hosting you, especially during the weekend. I know you must have had plans, but thank you very much for making time, and thank you very much for contributing to this series of webinars. This marks the end of our video. And just for our viewers, do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. The webinar is already available. It's live, and we shall be bringing you more webinars featuring different African experts under you, and we shall be sharing their opinions with respect to the African energy sector. Stay tuned and have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.